What if the most dangerous man in Montana didn't carry a gun? He carried a $5 bill. What if the woman they laughed at actually owned the ground they were standing on? This is not a love story. This is a reckoning. Her name is Stacy. His name is Henry. And before this night ends, 3 men will be dead, 1 town will burn, and you will never look at a bargain the same way again. Silver Creek, Montana, 1885. The rain doesn't wash away shame. It just makes it colder. Stacy Connors was 24 years old. She could sew a wedding dress in 6 hours and read the stars like a map. But none of that mattered. Because 3 weeks ago, the mayor's son tried to break into her room. She defended herself with sewing scissors, and now the preacher called her the shamed one. They dragged her to the auction block like rotten cattle. Starting bid, $1. The men laughed. They offered $2, $3, $4. Her father's grave wasn't even cold yet. Then a stranger raised his hand. Henry Wade. He smelled of coal and rain and prison soap. He said $5. The town roared with laughter, a shame bride for the price of a whiskey bottle. But Henry wasn't looking at her dress. He was looking at her hands, calloused like a map reader's hands. And when Jacob, the mayor's son, spat at his feet and said, "You just bought a curse, stranger," Henry smiled. He said, "No, I bought the deed to this town." And everyone stopped laughing. They say a man buys a wife for 2 reasons, loneliness or labor. But Henry Wade poured coffee, not whiskey. He didn't touch her. He didn't even look at her the way the others did. Instead, he unfolded a yellow parchment on the table, a geological survey map. He pointed to a patch of land behind the church, land that the mayor had fenced off last year. Land that had killed 3 miners who got too close. Stacy asked him, "What do you want from me?" And Henry leaned forward. He whispered, "Your father. He was the town surveyor before they hung him for stealing. What did he stitch into your hem before he died?" Stacy froze. Her fingers found the seam on her sleeve. She ripped it open. Inside was a strip of silk. Not thread, numbers, coordinates, a language only a geologist would understand. Henry's voice cracked. He said, "That's not thread, Stacy. That's a silver vein, the largest in the territory. Your father didn't steal. He discovered it, and Jacob's father buried him to hide it." For the first time in her life, Stacy felt power, not pain. She looked at Henry and said, "You want the silver?" He shook his head. "No, I want to watch them burn for what they did to you." 10 years ago, Henry Wade was a geologist for the Union Pacific Railroad. He was young. He was in love. He had a wife who waited for him by the window every night. Then they framed him for a train robbery he didn't commit. The real thief? The current mayor of Silver Creek, the same man who just bought a church with stolen silver money. Henry spent a decade in a 6x9 cell. His wife died of fever in year 3. The letter arrived 6 months late. He read it 342 times. Then he stopped counting. The only man who believed Henry was innocent was Stacy's father, the surveyor. He sent Henry that map piece hidden in a Bible. But before Henry could thank him, they hanged the surveyor for stealing land. Henry was released last spring. He came to Silver Creek with nothing but a $5 bill and a promise he made to a dead man. "I will find your daughter, and I will give her back what they stole." But Jacob doesn't know that. All Jacob knows is that a stranger bought his shame bride. And as Henry finishes his story, a rock crashes through the window. Tied to it is a rope, a noose knot, Jacob's signature. Stacy whispers, "They're coming tonight." Henry loads his revolver. He says, "I was counting on it." Henry poured the 5 silver dollars onto the table. They made a sound like tiny church bells. Ding, 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 5 times. He pushed 4 of them aside, left one standing alone. Stacy didn't understand. She asked him, "What are you doing?" And Henry told her the truth. He said, "I didn't pay $5 for you. I paid $1 for your freedom. The other $4 were to make them think you were worthless." He explained it slowly. If he had paid a fortune for her, the mayor's men would have searched her belongings. They would have found the map. But a $5 shame bride? No one looks twice. They laugh and they move on. While the town was laughing last night, Henry was inside the mayor's office. He didn't break a lock. He used a key. a key the surveyor made before he died and hid under the church step. He pulled out a leather book, the mayor's private ledger, every bribe, every murder, every stolen land claim. And there, on page 14, was Stacy's father's signature, on a confession he never wrote, a confession they forged after they hanged him. Stacy touched her father's name. Her tears fell onto the ink, and she whispered, "He didn't steal." Henry put his hand over hers. "No, he died protecting you. Now we publish this." Jacob brought 15 riders. Each one carried a torch and a rope. They surrounded the cabin like wolves around a dying elk. Jacob shouted from his black horse, "Give us the girl and the map, prisoner. We'll only break your hands. Maybe." The men laughed. The torches hissed in the rain. Henry had one bullet. 15 men. Bad odds. But Henry Wade wasn't a fighter. He was a geologist. He knew what was underground better than he knew the back of his own hand. 3 weeks ago, he soaked the hay in the barn with coal oil, not to burn the barn down, to burn a trail. Because the barn sat directly above a natural gas vent, a pocket of Earth's breath waiting for a spark. Henry looked at Stacy. He asked, "You said you can sew. Can you run?" She grabbed his arm. "Faster than you." He shot the lantern, not at the men, at the hay. The bullet sparked. The ground roared. A line of fire exploded from the barn door and ran straight toward the gas vent. Boom! The earth opened. 3 horses fell. Men screamed, and in the chaos, Henry grabbed Stacy's hand and pulled her toward a storm drain he had mapped months ago. They dropped into the mud, just as the barn collapsed behind them. Crawling through the darkness, soaked and bleeding, Stacy's hand found something in Henry's pocket. A wedding ring. A woman's ring. She held it up. "Who did you lose?" Henry didn't stop crawling, but his voice broke. "My wife. She died waiting for me to get out of prison." Stacy held his hand tighter. "She's not waiting anymore. I am." The church was supposed to be sanctuary, but in Silver Creek, even God had been bought. The preacher hid them in the crypt. It smelled of old bones and older secrets. He lit one candle. Just one. Enough to see each other's guilt. The preacher spoke first. His voice was like dry leaves. He said, "I presided over your shame auction, child. I read the verses while they bid on you like a mule. I am damned." But then he told them the real secret. The town wasn't corrupt by accident. It was owned. The mayor had a contract with a railroad baron in Chicago. Every miner who dug the silver didn't own his soul. He owed a debt. And the silver wasn't for the town. Stacy asked, "Then what is it for?" The preacher looked at the floor. "Cannons. The mayor is selling the silver to buy cannons. He wants to be governor. He will burn this whole territory to do it, and he will kill everyone who knows." Then they heard them. Footsteps. Heavy boots on the church floor above. Dust fell from the ceiling like snow. Jacob's voice echoed through the wood. "Preacher, we know you're hiding them. We'll burn the pews. We'll burn the Bible. We'll burn you." Henry stood up, mud dripping from his coat, blood from his shoulder. He said, "No, you won't, because I'm coming out, but I'm not coming unarmed." He held up the ledger. "This goes to the federal marshal in the next town. You kill us, my partner mails it." Stacy looked at Henry. She knew the truth. There was no partner. It was just them. And a lie wrapped in courage. Dawn came slow and gray. The rain had stopped, but the mud was deep enough to bury a man standing up. Henry and Stacy walked down Main Street, not running, walking, shoulder to shoulder. His left arm hung dead from the bullet wound, but his right hand held the ledger like a lantern. Jacob blocked the road with his 15 men. Their horses stomped and snorted. Steam rose from their nostrils. Jacob laughed. "You think a book will save you, convict?" But Henry wasn't talking to Jacob. He was talking to the miners, 50 men watching from the porches, men who woke up at 4 a.m. to dig for $1 a day while the mayor drank champagne. Henry shouted, "He pays you $1. The silver under your feet is worth $1,000 a pound. You are not miners. You are slaves digging your own cages." Silence. A miner dropped his pickaxe. It hit the wood with a sound like a judge's gavel. Another miner stepped down from his porch, then another. Jacob drew his gun. "Last warning, convict." But Stacy stepped in front of Henry. She put her chest to the gun barrel. "Shoot me, go ahead. But my father's ghost is standing right behind you, Jacob, and he has the deed." She pulled out a second piece of silk from her collar. Not coordinates, a land grant, signed by the President of the United States 20 years ago. Her father didn't just find the silver, he legally owned the mountain. Stacy looked at the miners. She said, "This town, you're all trespassing on my land, and I want rent." The saloon doors creaked open. Mayor Hayes stepped out. He was old, 70 if he was a day. His cane tapped the wood like a slow heartbeat, but in his other hand, he held a wooden box. A wire ran from the box into his pocket. The mayor smiled. It was the smile of a man who had buried 3 wives and 7 rivals. He said, "Clever girl, but I wired the church, the school, your little cabin. You take one step, and I send them all to heaven early." Fear ran through the crowd like cold water. Innocent families were inside those buildings, children, the old, the sick. Henry grabbed Stacy's arm. He whispered so only she could hear, "The ledger. Does it mention dynamite purchases?" Stacy flipped the pages. Her finger ran down the columns. Nothing. No dynamite. No explosives. "He bought it off the books," she whispered. Henry smiled. It was a dangerous smile. "Then he can't prove he has it. Bluff him." Stacy turned to the mayor. Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. She shouted, "You're lying. You don't have a detonator. You have a cigar box with a wire. I saw the real dynamite. It's in your cellar, under your wife's portrait, dry as tinder." The mayor's hand shook. He looked down at his box. For 1 second, he doubted. His thumb hovered over the button. Jacob screamed, "Pa, she's guessing!" But the mayor knew. He did have dynamite in the cellar. How did she know? She didn't. She gambled, and she won. The mayor dropped the detonator. It hit the ground and cracked open. Wires spilled out like broken snakes. Inside the box, a brick, just a brick wrapped in copper wire. A cigar box with a lie inside. The crowd gasped. The miners took 1 step forward. The mayor's men took 1 step back. The balance had shifted. But the mayor still had a gun, a derringer hidden in his cane. He pulled it out, not pointing at Henry, pointing at Stacy, her chest, her heart. Henry saw it coming. He pushed her down. The bullet hit his shoulder, the same shoulder. The blood poured black in the morning light. Henry fell to his knees. He gasped, "Run, please run." But Stacy didn't run. She picked up a rock from the mud, heavy, sharp. She didn't throw it. She held it up like a scale of justice, and she looked the mayor in the eye. She said, "I'll give you 10% of the silver, Mayor. A deal, in writing, right now, if you let the town doctor sew him up." The mayor blinked. Greed versus murder. It was the easiest choice he ever made. "Deal," he said. He called for the doctor. As Henry bled into the mud, he grabbed Stacy's wrist. His voice was barely a whisper. "Why? Why give him anything?" Stacy kissed his forehead. Her lips tasted like rain and gunpowder. She whispered back, "Because 10% of a mountain is nothing. The other 90% buys us a railroad and a judge. He'll hang himself with the rope we sell him." 6 months later. The snow had melted. So had the mayor's power. He died of a heart attack the week the federal marshal arrived. Jacob died in a bar fight 3 towns over. No one mourned either of them. The miners elected one of their own as mayor. The first thing he did was rename the main street, Connors Street. For the surveyor, they hanged for telling the truth. Stacy didn't get married in the church that auctioned her. She didn't get married in the town that laughed at her. She got married on a train platform, the first locomotive leaving Silver Creek for the coast. Henry wore a black suit. His left arm was still in a sling. The doctor said he'd never use it fully again. Henry said he didn't need 2 arms. He just needed one to hold her. Stacy wore a white dress, the one she had sewn 3 years ago for a wedding that never happened. She altered it the night before, added a pocket for the deed. As the train whistle blew, Henry reached into his coat. He pulled out a $5 bill, crisp, new. He handed it to her. For luck. Stacy looked at the bill. She looked at him. Tears and laughter mixed on her face. "You overpaid," she said. Henry pulled her close. The train hissed steam around them like a blessing. He said, "No, I underpaid. You were worth an empire." She was sold for the price of a whiskey bottle. But she walked away with the price of a kingdom. Never let a small town write your story. You are not what they bid. You are what you survive.